March Madness is here, which means I think it's time to do my 4th mock draft of the 2023 NBA draft cycle. The order of teams has changed a bit. The players and where they might get picked has somewhat changed as well. We're going to be doing a full lottery mock draft in this video, but before we do get into it, if you're new and you like basketball and you haven't already, feel free to like, subscribe, hit notification bell, I'm notified whenever I release a video. It helps me out a lot in the YouTube algorithm, and if you like basketball, I really think you would enjoy this channel, and it would help me out a lot. I'd really appreciate it. With that being said, don't want to waste your time any further. Let's get into the mock draft. The Detroit Pistons are going to be picking first in the 2023 NBA draft in this mock draft, and we all know who's going first overall. It's been this way for what feels like years now. Victor Wembanyama will be a Detroit Piston, or whatever team gets the first overall pick in real life. It's all but set in stone at this point. He fits well on any team. He has basketball skills that honestly feel like they shouldn't be possible. He's a player that I really think would be fun on this Pistons core as a piano roll man with Cade Cunningham, as far as rolling to the basket and fading. That should be fun. I think as a piano ball handler with Jalen Duren as the roll man would be fun with Victor Wembanyama. A core of Cade, Ivy, Duren, and Wembanyama would be one of the most fun in the league, in my opinion. You get an explosive and dynamic backcourt combined with a versatile and defensive monster frontcourt. This is a pick that would make the Pistons playing contenders at the very least next season if it were to actually happen, and maybe even more than that, because I just think Victor Wembanyama is that good. The Houston Rockets will be holding the 2nd overall pick in this mock draft, and they're going to take Scoot Henderson, because that's really just common sense at this point. I'll be honest with you, I think some people are overthinking Scoot a little bit, because he's 6'2", and that's quote-unquote undersized. I'll be honest with you guys, 6'2" is not undersized for a point guard. We have seen many great guards in the league currently that are 6'2" or shorter. Stephen Curry, 6'2". Damian Lillard listed at 6'2". He's actually probably closer to 6 foot or 6'1". I've seen him in person. He's definitely shorter than that listed 6'2" height. Darius Garland's one of the best guards in the league. Donovan Mitchell's one of the best guards in the league. De'Aaron Fox is only like 6'3", I believe. So to say that Scoot is undersized and shouldn't go like top 2 because of that is ridiculous to me, because 6'2" isn't even like undersized for a point guard. And secondly, he has long arms. He has a 6'9" wingspan, and every athletic trait in the book that's elite. On top of that, he has high feel. You guys get the idea. You guys know who he is. He is the perfect point guard prospect in many ways, from a physical standpoint, athletic standpoint, from a feel for the game standpoint, from a skill perspective, from both a scoring and playmaking side of things. And Houston needs a point guard badly. They need somebody that can be a primary playmaker, and Scoot would fit that perfectly. The KPJ experiment just didn't work, and adding Scoot would mean he would form one of the most athletic backcourts we've ever seen with Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green will benefit from this, playing off the ball more. I think Jabari Smith Jr. would benefit playing off of Scoot as well. He's just a player that will significantly raise the floor and ceiling for any team that drafts him. But the Rockets in particular are a team it will be most notable for if it actually happens. The San Antonio Spurs are up at pick number 3 in this mock draft, and I consider both Cam Whitmore from Villanova and Brandon Miller from Alabama with this pick. But this is a team that is already pretty set at forward and wing with Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson, Jeremy Sohan. All 3 are really good young players in my opinion that are building blocks for their future. And I don't think there's a big man worth taking in the top 3, especially Wembanyama off the board, because he's not going to make it to pick 3 anyways. So why not go with the 6'7" freak athlete point guard that has primary playmaking upside? Amen Thompson has some work to do with his jump shot, to say the least. It's a legit concern, but everything else is elite. He is an elite athlete. He's an elite playmaker as far as feel and accuracy, creativity. he utilizes his athleticism in his playmaking in a way I've never seen another prospect do. He's the number 3 player in this class, in my opinion, pretty easily. He has the upside to be an absolute game wrecker on offense and be an elite defender as well. And that's something that the Spurs really can't pass on. It's not guaranteed that Amen Thompson becomes this two-way primary creator, but the upside of that at this point in the draft at 3 is just too much, in my opinion, for the Spurs to pass up on, because I think of the players in this draft, outside of Scoot and Wemby, Amen Thompson has the most potential, in my opinion, to be a franchise player. And if the Spurs can get a potential franchise player, they have to take it. The Charlotte Hornets are up at pick 4, and I have them taking Cam Whitmore from Villanova with this pick. Cam Whitmore might not have standout statistics in college, but when you look at his tape, you see the frame, the strength, athleticism, and all the traits that he has. On top of being one of the younger players in this class, he's extremely young for this draft class. You see the star potential. He's a high motor power wing, he can jump out of the gym. He's somebody that has a really good second jump. In my opinion, one of the best second jumps I've ever seen from a prospect. He has good shot creating and shooting indicators, in my opinion. And he's somebody that has potential to be unstoppable going downhill and attacking the basket in both transition and half-court settings. I think his handle's good enough. And he also can be somebody that can shoot and create potentially. And I think that the indicators are extremely positive in that area, on top of the high motor that he has. It's something worth taking this high. And I know the Hornets are a really interesting franchise, to say the least, but outside of LaMelo Ball, they really don't have much. I guess they have Mark Williams, who I like a lot, but outside of maybe that and LaMelo, they need to get a player with start potential, and I think that Cam Whitmore has some of the best start indicators in this class. The Orlando Magic are up at pick number 5, and they need floor spacing around the core of Paulo Banchero and Franz Wagner, which is why Brandon Miller will be my pick at number 5. In the past, I've been a bit lower on Brandon Miller, and I still think that I do have my question marks with him as a prospect as far as self-creation goes. But what he does well, he does really well. He's a 3-point scoring prospect at 6'9" with deep shooting range, has a really good profile in that regard, has flash ability as a secondary playmaker. He's a really good defender, good athlete, high motor. These are all indicators that suggest, at the very least, he will be a contributor in the NBA for a very long time. And I think the Magic could use a player like this, a 3-and-D wing that can space the floor around creators like Paulo and Franz. So I think that the fact he won't be asked to do a bunch of all-ball creation stuff in Orlando would be beneficial for his development and the impact he can have short-term as far as immediate impact as a player. And I just think that it would be a kind of perfect fit for him in Orlando. The Washington Wizards are up at pick number 6, and they're going to be taking Nick Smith Jr., the combo guard from Arkansas. Nick Smith Jr. is, in my opinion, a player that can legit play both 1 and 2 in certain roles. Had a slow start to the season because of injury, but since coming back, I think he has shown the potential that made him a top 10 guy. He's quick, he's shifty, he's crafty, good passer, can touch on all shots, brings value both on and off the ball. Now, I do have concerns with him as far as a finisher, not only with his strength, which I think can be added in the NBA because the NBA has really good strength programs, but I just think his aggression and some of his decision making at the basket could improve, but I like him a lot. Now, I don't think he's quite the prospect I thought he would be going into the year, because going into the year I thought he could be a potential top 3 pick. I think I had him like 4th on my board going into the year. I don't think he's going to be a top 5 guy for me in this class personally, But I do think he's worthy of going in that 5 to 10 range, because basically 5 to like 10 for me is very close with all these prospects. He's really good, and given his relationship with Bradley Beal, Nick Smith played on Bradley Beal's AAU-funded team in high school. I do think this pick is a real possibility. The Portland Trail Blazers are up at pick number 7, and they're entering the offseason asking the same question they're always asking. Do they rebuild and restart, trade away Dame, and just start from scratch again? Or do they try and build a contender around Dame for, what's this, the 50th time now? Luckily for them, I think picking Jarace Walker would give them flexibility, because he would be the answer for both of these questions. He is a player that can be a building block for the future of a rebuild. He can also be a player that contributes right away. I think he's one of the more NBA-ready players in this class. He's a versatile defender, good passer, growing shooter and creator, high motor, NBA-ready frame and athleticism, and a super high field player. He is a lot better than his college numbers indicate. I consider taking him in the top 5. I just think the upside of Cam Whitmore is a bit higher than Jarace Walker's, and I think Brandon Miller just fits better than Jarace Walker, and I just didn't want to send another forward to Washington because they don't have a good history with those and developing them. But I think Portland's a really good development situation. They have proven to develop players in the past, and it's not like Jarace Walker needs that much development to be a good NBA player, but if they develop him properly, he could return like top 3 to 5 value in this class. I think he's that good. The Indiana Pacers are up at pick number 8. They're probably lower than people thought they would be, picking in the late top 10, where people thought that they'd probably be picking in the top 5. They also are a bit lower than probably expected based off how they started the season, because I think they wouldn't be a lottery team if Halliburton didn't get hurt this season and miss some time. That really did drop them in the standings. With that being said, Asar Thompson is my pick for them, the other Thompson twin, who's also a really good prospect. He would be really fun to have on this Pacers team. He's an elite athlete. He's a good connecting passer, really good defender. I think immediately he will be one of the better young defenders in the league. He's growing as a shooter. Still needs a lot of work, but the signs are encouraging as far as his confidence and him tweaking his form. He can be a great transition threat, and I think he can play on the ball, he can play off the ball, he can slice to the basket, catch lobs. I think he's someone in time will grow into a respectable shooter. I just think putting him next to Tyrese Halliburton would be very incredible long term. The Orlando Magic are back on the clock at pick number 9. This is the pick they're getting from the Chicago Bulls from that Vucevic trade, which has turned out to be an incredible trade for the Orlando Magic. They got Wendell Carter, who's one of the most underrated bigs in basketball. They got Franz Wagner, who in my opinion has like legit like all-NBA upside as a wing in this league. They might have another pick even after this that I'm forgetting about. I could be right, I could be wrong about that. And they have pick 9 in this mock draft, maybe even a little bit higher than that, depending on how the lottery goes. And with that pick, I have them taking Jet Howard from Michigan. I'm sticking to my plan of adding 4 spacers around the Paulo Franz core, and Jet Howard is a really good shooter in this class. I consider taking him over Brandon Miller at pick number 5. I have nearly identical grades on the two as prospects. I'm actually slightly higher on Jet Howard because of his all-ball creating upside compared to Miller, but it's a razor-thin line between those two as prospects. And the reason I took Miller at 5 and not Jet, because Brandon Miller wouldn't be available at pick number 9. If he didn't go at 5, like, Washington would have taken him, and I do want to keep it somewhat realistic with these mock drafts, and even though I want to put my own input on it, I also want to think like, okay, this is what would happen at the same time. It's a mixable. My final mock draft will be the one I do solely based off what I would do if I was GM of each of these teams, but we have a while before that. Anyways, about Jet Howard. He's a really good prospect. Like, he's one of those guys I'm just so confident will be a good pro. And he's somebody that's just too skilled not to be, in my opinion. Good shooter, decent passer, can create on and off the ball. I think like Miller, he just fits what this Magic team needs the most as a floor spacer. And also like Miller, he brings value in another area that really could add value as well. With Miller, that area is defense, in my opinion. I think Miller's a really good defender, probably one of the better wing defenders in this class. And for Jet, I think it's on-ball creation, which could be a skill that I don't think is a full-time thing with him, but during times when Paulo needs rest, he can be a secondary creator next to Franz, or if Franz needs rest, he can be a secondary creator next to Paulo, or in lineups where both of them are out, or say both of them miss a game. Jet Howard can handle some of that on-ball creating because he is somebody that has some capability in that area, in my opinion. And I think if they get Brandon Miller and Jet Howard in this draft, that would be an incredible draft for Orlando. And I think that easily raises the floor of this team by adding floor spacers like that, and especially considering that both of them are really tall floor spacers. The Toronto Raptors are up at pick number 10? Yeah, pick 10 in this mock draft, and with that 10th pick, they're going to be taking Keontae George from Baylor because they need scoring and they need it badly. The Raptors are a team that could just use a player like George at that guard spot to be a go-to scorer. Maybe not the go-to scorer, but someone they can just look to and say, okay, go get a bucket for us. In a way, George kind of reminds me of Anthony Edwards from a numbers perspective. Nothing else really, but from a pure numbers perspective, when they were in college, where I don't feel like the college numbers fully reflect how good of a shooter or scorer they are, because they aren't really that efficient in college, but on tape they just look better even if they have their flaws. George is a really gifted shot creator. He's a big physical guard. He can play off the ball, play on the ball. He can get to the line. He is someone that has a higher motor than I think he gets credit for. He's also a much better defender and passer than anticipated entering the draft cycle. So he's not just a scorer. I think he has all-around potential as well. And I think that, I've seen plenty of my Raptors mutuals. They want Keontae George. I think it's proper value to get him at 10 in this draft. And it just makes too much sense for me to pass up on. The New Orleans Pelicans are up at pick 11. This is the pick they're getting from the Lakers, depending on how things go. This might not even be a lottery pick because the Lakers do kind of look good now. But this is the way it is now. And with that 11 pick, it might be a bit of a shocking pick, because I don't think people have this player going this high. But I'm going Jalen Hood-Schifino from Indiana here. The Pelicans need players that can contribute in multiple ways, and Jalen Hood-Schifino is a player that can do that. In a way, somewhat reminds me a bit of Lonzo Ball as far as like this tall, connecting playmaker. He's not a defender that Lonzo was when healthy, but I do think he can play a similar role. I know they drafted Dyson Daniels to be that, but you can never have too many of players that can be like really good connecting role players on a team, and Jalen Hood-Schifino can play on the ball, play off the ball, can be a connector, decent ball handler, good passer. Just does a lot of things really well that make me confident that he's going to be a contributor for a very long time in his career and be a good pro for a very long time. He's been a major riser up not only my board personally, but many others' boards in the draft community. I just think he has all the tools to contribute at a young age and contribute for a long time, especially early on, which is why I'm going with this pick. He's somebody, I think if he has a good tournament, he will be a player that does rise upwards quickly. The Los Angeles Lakers are up at pick number 12, and with that pick, I have them taking Cason Wallace. This is the pick that they're getting from New Orleans. Wallace, in my opinion, is a player that can contribute right away because he is an absurd defensive player. The best defensive guard prospect in this class, and in my opinion, the best one-and-done defensive guard prospect of the last 10 to 15 years. He's a high-field player on defense, good instincts and movement skills, physical tough player, really smart, really good defensive communicator, good foul discipline, plays well on and off the ball. Plus, he can contribute on offense. He's not a bad offensive player, not a great one either, but far from a negative. And if you can get a player this young that can contribute right away, be an elite defensive player, be a contributor within the flow of the offense without being a negative on a rookie deal, considering the likely sort of time span you have left with this LeBron AD core in this era for LA, that's a player we're taking at pick number 12. The OKC Thunder are up at pick number 13, picking way lower than expected, especially considering many thought they would be a tanking team this year, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just too good for this team to be that bad. I think I realized that the moment the season started, and I actually kind of thought that going into the season. I thought they were going to be better than people thought. I didn't think they'd be this good, but SGA is like an all-NBA guy, and has been on that trajectory for a while now, so if he stayed healthy, I thought they would be good, and he stayed healthy for the most part. Josh Giddey has taken a leap, so they've been good. But with this pick at 13, I have them taking Taylor Hendricks. Hendricks would be a really good fit with this OKC team. He's a power forward that you put in the front court with Chet. And I know I've said in the past, I think Chet Holmgren is a power forward, but he can play center. I think if you work on bulking up, which I think is possible with him, and at least getting to a respectable weight, which is probably like 225, 230, which I think is possible, I do think he can work at the 5. And Hendricks does have some 3-4 flexibility as well. But it would lead to a front court that is extremely versatile and would be a filthy shot blocking duo. Hendricks would be able to space the floor on offense as well. He's a really good shooter. He's athletic and good in transition. Gifted shot blocker, like I mentioned earlier. Has on-ball defensive potential. High motor player. Has good hands as a lob threat. And has good slashing potential with the basketball in his hands facing up. I just think it would be a perfect fit. And it would round out the starting 5 for this OKC team moving forward. Long term, if everything goes according to plan, a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, J-Dub, which is Jalen Williams, Taylor Hendricks, and Chet Holmgren starting 5 could be filthy for years to come. And the Utah Jazz are on the clock at pick number 14. And I had them taking Derek Whitehead from Duke. I know a lot of people are lower on Derek. He's had an underwhelming freshman season, but I'm still really high on Derek Whitehead. It's hard for me to bet against a guy like this. I know he's had an inconsistent year, but I think injuries have played a huge factor into that inconsistency, which it is. Not only did he get injured before the season, which had to cause him to sort of slowly work his way back into a rhythm. It also was an injury he suffered once he started to get back into that rhythm that basically reset everything, and he had to get that rhythm back and work his way back into it again. So when you put that into perspective, it does explain a lot of his inconsistencies. Now, he is somebody that I do have concerns, like the finishing hasn't been great, even with the injury factor. He seemed kind of erratic at times, which I think injuries can explain. But you look at his history. He's been practicing with and against NBA guys since he was 13 years old. He's been at Montverde Academy for years. He's played against RJ Barrett in practice. He's played against, Cade Cunningham and Scotty Barnes, Moses Moody, like all these future lottery guys in practice. He's battle tested. I like his feel. He's a good shooter, good shot creator. I think his off-ball defense is pretty impressive, and I like where he is in that area of the game. He's also extremely young for this class. There's a lot of room to grow. He's a pretty good athlete. And I do understand that it is a risk to take him in the lottery, because you are betting on what he was in high school. And based on what he was in high school, if that translated to college, he would be like a top 3 pick. But, it hasn't. Even with the injuries, it's still the point it hasn't. So it is a risk to take him in the lottery. But he does have lottery tools. And on top of him being extremely young and having room to grow, the Utah Jazz are a perfect team to take him, in my opinion. Because, sure, they are a lot better than expected this year. Yes, they have Lauri Markkanen, who has, for the most part, played at all-NBA levels this season. Colin Sexton has been pretty good, like either starting coming off the bench. Ochai Agbaji has shown flashes. Caitlin Horton-Tucker has even shown flashes. They have guys that have shown flashes. But they aren't really that good in terms of getting close to contention. So, I think that, they could draft a guy that can contribute, like a Grady Dick, who I considered, like, with basically every pick from like 6 to like 14, Grady Dick was in heavy consideration. I almost took him at 14 because he could contribute right away. But for me personally, I do have some input into these mock drafts, and for me personally, you know, why not take that swing? You're not really a contender, but you're not bad enough to get a top guy. Why not take a swing on a guy that could end up being like a top 3 to 5 value from this class if it goes right? It's not guaranteed it'll go right, but at pick 14, it's worth that swing to see if he can still be that guy people thought he was coming out of high school. But that's just me. But that's the end of this video. If you made it to this point, thank you so much. Again, haven't already, and you enjoyed the video and enjoy basketball, feel free to like, subscribe, and notification bell. Be notified whenever I release a video. Doing both those things would help me out a lot in the YouTube algorithm and help me grow as a platform so I can make more videos for you guys in the future. I'd love to hear some comments below. Who do you think I forgot? Who do you think should be here that isn't? Who do you think shouldn't be here that is in the mock draft? I'd love to hear all that in the comment section below. Would also like to know who you think is going to win March Madness, because that starts really soon. I have Houston winning it all. I love Kelvin Sampson. I think they're a really good team. I think they're the best team in the country. I think Jarris Walker's incredible. Marcus Sasser, hopefully he's okay. If he can get back playing, I think that they're going to be a heavy favorite. But knowing me, I'm going to be really wrong about this because I'm always wrong about my March Madness brackets. But yeah, that's all I really had to say in this one. Super long video, so that more work for you guys in the future. But with that being said, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.